You know what I'm going to say? I'm going to say better late than never. December 23rd, Monday. It's the Daily Puck Drop, only 6 minutes late. Jim, we haven't had one of these in a while where we've had technical problems. I don't know what was going on. I couldn't hear you. You couldn't hear me. Then the internet went out for 5 minutes. So we're here. It's a rough start to the show, but that's fine. We're back. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know if it was an issue on my end or not. If it was, I'll take ownership of it. But I plugged in like I usually do, and it just didn't work for some reason. But it's good to be back, Puck. How are you? Do you have a good weekend?
It's just one of those things. Yeah, there's these technical problems. That's what happens. It's okay. No, I'm doing good. We'll get the sponsors out of the way. We always thank Limback Lumber. Limback Lumber, proud sponsor of the Puck Sports Studios. They got free deliveries from all house packages to homeowner DIY projects. They got the largest stock moldings in the Northwest. Old school service because they've been doing it since 1930. Limback Lumber. Give them a call, 206-782-3487. Visit them online at limback.lumber.com. Follow all the social media platforms. You can follow Jim at Cougs Go. You can follow me on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, Blue Sky, Instagram. There at Puck Sports, on TikTok, Puck_sports, and then Facebook, Puck Sports. And, of course, join the Puck's Posse community membership. Go to pucksports.com. You can click there. We'll take you right to the Puck Sports community website. Also, click on that QR code if you are streaming this show live or later. Jim is brought to you by every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
It's Brian Turner's terrific company, A Clean Streak professional windows and exterior cleaning service, proudly serving Island and Skagit counties for more than 10 years. 100% satisfaction guaranteed. Whether you need your roof cleaned, your gutters cleaned, you name it, pressure washing, they'll do it all at A Clean Streak. So give them a call at 360-395-5748, 360-395-5748, or visit acleanstreak.com.
All right, we're going to get into we got the Seahawks to get into, the Mariners' first base options, which they have none, and then the Wazoo coaching search. The Ground Puck Seahawks Podcast with Tim Booth, Curtis Crabtree. Those boys will join me at 11 o'clock today. We have abbreviated shows this week. We'll be on, obviously, today. No show tomorrow or Wednesday. Back Thursday with Garofolo and Dugar, and then back Friday, but we may change some things a little bit there on Friday. But
okay.
Just a couple of shows this week. And then really kind of the same schedule next week because it falls on New Year's Eve and New Year's. I should have just stopped. We should have just had a 2-week hiatus. You know what? There's unlimited unlimited vacation now with this new venture. You can take as much time off as you'd like.
Well, yeah, but I'm unlimited anyway, being retired. Don't you usually go to Mexico this time of year? Or is it every other year? Or what is it?
That's where we went Thanksgiving.
Oh, you were there at Thanksgiving. Okay.
Thanksgiving.
You got family obligations. You're going to see family over the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, like a lot of big family coming in tomorrow. I'm doing all the cooking, so I got to prep it all tonight. Get all that taken care of. But before
what's the main dish?
Well, same dish we serve every year, German dinner.
Okay.
Pork schnitzel with spätzle, which is like a German pasta, and red cabbage.
Sounds good.
Oh, it's wonderful. Jim, it's one of those meals that sticks to your bones, right? Sticks to that rib cage.
Yeah, I was even thinking, it doesn't matter what you have as the main dish at Christmas, does it? I mean, you can change it up a little bit. I said to Kathy, how about we do Mexican this year? And she was like, no. But I think Mexican and margaritas would be great, though, wouldn't it?
I think Mexican food, and you can do the Christmas sauce, the green sauce and the red sauce. I think that's a fantastic choice. I've been having the same meal. Well, since I can remember. I don't know. I mean, when's your earliest memory? 5 or 6, maybe?
Yeah.
I've had it every year. Same thing.
Well, you have to do that then. It's a tradition. And you're probably good at it by now, making it as many times you have over the years.
I'm okay. I'm okay at making it. We kind of rotate. My sister's, won't be here. She lives in LA. She's really good at it. But the best one, and even the one that tops my mom, is my niece.
Really?
Yeah, my niece Tori. Shout out Tori. She's actually the best one at it.
What does she do? Is it a special touch?
No, we make the same. Everybody makes the same meal. Hers is, I don't know why it's better. It's just she makes it better than everyone else.
Huh.
I don't know.
Okay.
She just does. So that's why when I enjoy when it's at her house, because I'm like, oh, thank God. Because it's a pain in the ass to make. It's a lot. And I'm just like,
is it?
yeah.
I wouldn't even know how to start. I don't even know what a schnitzel is.
Schnitzel is just
the noodle, kind of a noodle thing, isn't it?
Well, no, that's Spätzle. It's just a German noodle. It looks like a I don't know what it kind of the spirally like pasta Italian noodles you would be
like
accustomed
rotini.
A little bit. Schnitzel is just ground. It's just a flat piece of like pork loin that you pound out.
Okay.
And then you bread it and you fry it. That's what it is. That's pork schnitzel.
And the
but
kids
you know
like
what the kids love it. You know what you're really supposed to use though? The traditional for schnitzel is not pork. You can use pork, but the traditional one is veal.
Oh.
I enjoy veal. But everybody else now has gotten, we can't do veal anymore. Why?
Is that because they don't want to kill calves?
Yeah, well, because they put the small little calves like in a box where they can't move at all. That's kind of how they do it.
Oh, well, yeah. I
shouldn't be laughing. I just enjoy the veal. Okay.
Honestly, I like veal and lamb, but I do it sparingly because I think about the end of their life and how that goes.
Do you think that way when you stuff a cheeseburger down your throat?
No, I don't. I'm sorry, but I think about the little calf and the little lamb just getting offed, and it bothers me. It does. I admit it.
Well, okay.
It does. Come on, think about it.
It doesn't bother me. No.
No, a calf getting it?
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
And listen, before anybody starts coming at me with something, I grew up on a farm, okay? I grew up on a farm with cows and calves and all of it until I was in 6th grade. All right, so
well, no, anybody.
You're looking at the original John Dutton over here.
Anybody can come at me if they want and say, God, you're a hypocrite.
Come at me.
If you're eating other kinds of meat, what's the difference? I'm like, well, shit, at least a cow got. How many years until a cow gets offed?
Whatever. Eventually, the bottom line is
at least they lived a longer life than a damn calf.
What? So what? They grazing in a farm and eating grass?
What are you?
Eventually, they get murdered. They get killed.
I know, but they didn't get much of a life if they're a calf.
Do you think they really have much of a life?
I don't know.
I mean, honestly, come on. Do you think
who are we to determine that their life should end?
I grew up on a farm. They don't do anything.
When you were on the farm, what'd you kill?
Cows.
Oh, did you see it happen? Was there a slaughterhouse and all that?
Yes.
Were you okay with it?
Yes.
Were you?
Well, I grew up with it, so it was fun.
Shit, I would have cried probably. Yeah, people call me a pussy. I don't give a shit, man. I couldn't handle seeing an animal die like that. I just couldn't do it.
Now you know how it gets to your plate, Jim.
I know. And oh God, you're being a hypocrite, more. Well, yeah, I know
fine.
I am. Hey,
it's okay. There's some of us are lions.
I don't want to go behind the curtain.
Some of us are sheep.
Wait, I don't want to see how the sausage is made. I don't want to see any of that.
I love it. I love how the sausage is made. I could tell you how the sausage is made. We had pigs too.
I'm doing. You should be thanking me right now, and the listeners should be thanking me.
Why?
I see the rundown, and I heard you talk about it. There's nothing positive that you're talking about.
Well, what do you want to get into? The Seahawks. That was. There's a lot to unpack from. It was a highly entertaining game, but it's just we're just going to get to the same kind of storylines about.
What do you want to unpack?
Well, it's just the same stuff every week with these guys. It's just a roller coaster. Every week is the same story with them, is it not?
They're a good team, but not good enough. That basically
exactly.
Sums it up, isn't it?
Yeah.
They're an above average team, but that doesn't quite cut it. But for me anyway, I look at it and go, yeah, it's disappointing. You lost to a 12-2 team. You lost to a Green Bay team last week that was better. You haven't played well at home all year. But still, the first year of Mike Macdonald, you had an offensive coordinator who'd never been in the NFL. All these different things. An offensive line that had injuries and wasn't very good to begin with. And you're still 8-7, and you still have a little, whisker of a chance to still squeeze into the playoffs. So to me right now, it's been a successful season. Not as much as you want, but what do we expect with Mike Macdonald coming in? That it was just going to transform overnight?
I thought like 9-8 or 10-7.
Okay,
Now,
that's where they are.
and honestly, that is they're on. They can do it. They can now they can get to 10-7 and miss the playoffs, or they get to 9-8. It is weird. I think maybe it's the expectations how the season started changed. People's attitudes of the team. I would just say this. I just think going into it with how they played last year, you just went through all of it. So I don't want to go first year. Everyone. I just think there were going to be massive learning curves for all of these coaches, every one of them. I think the goal at the end of the year was, I guess for me, is were they in position to get there? Did they have a position to get in the playoffs, a position to at least fight for the division? Would they match up better against the two teams that were in their division that they need to get through? Well, yeah, they did. Now, part of it, San Francisco had some injuries. We'll see what the Rams game was a good game earlier this year. They lost, so that was a negative. Now we'll see what happens at the end of the year. It could all be moot at the end of the year. I mean, it could all be nothing based on the results of this weekend. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think that this team had Super Bowl aspirations, and I think that they're being held to some standard that I don't think was the standard entering this year. That's how I feel about it.
Well, if Pete Carroll were still the coach and we're talking about this 8-7 Seahawks team, we'd be disappointed. And we'd be thinking, why didn't we get rid of him a year ago? And since it's a new coach, all the things are valid, what you're saying, Puck. Especially that.
I think they get a pass. I think a new coach gets a pass. This is where I also think the coordinator gets a pass.
Well, how about
they may make a move at the end of the year?
Too. We never talk about Auden Durde. I mean, the Englishman.
But I don't know what
he's never been a defensive coordinator before, though.
Yeah, but he's not calling the plays, though. Is he? I don't believe he's calling.
Well, but we never bring him up. I kind of miss him. Remember back in the old days, we talked about you always had.
Hey, and dirty. I'm right and dirty. Well, it's like back in the day when Holmgren called the plays. Who was their offensive coordinator?
No, go ahead.
Gil. Well, I'm just asking. Was Gil Haskell? Did you want Gil Haskell fired? No, because he wasn't calling the plays. Like Aiden Dirty's there, but and again, I'm not saying he doesn't do anything. I don't know what he does and doesn't do behind the scenes.
Yeah,
I'm just saying on game days, it's Mike Macdonald is the one that's calling the plays. He eventually will hand it over to Dirty, and maybe he's done some of it this year. But
well, yeah, and you talk about a learning curve. It sounds like that defensive system took a little bit. I mean, it's not like calculus or anything, but I think it takes a little getting used to. It's not like defense 101.
No, I think there's just going to be a learning curve for all of these guys. That's why I also think there's a learning curve, for Ryan Grubb, which again, this Ryan Grubb thing is going to heat up again, right? Because now everybody wants him fired.
Again? Well, no, who?
A lot of people want him fired.
Like who? Right now, again, we're going back to that storyline?
Yeah, I bet if we did.
Why? Because they didn't run the ball enough yesterday?
Yeah, do a Jim Mora Substack poll.
No.
I bet most Seahawks fans.
I try and do clickbait stuff sometimes, but even I have my limits. No. Like whoever wants Ryan Grubb to be fired should just be barged out to where.
You want to barge him?
Yeah. I don't even, I'm not necessarily a Ryan Grubb fan, since just because he was at UW. I just, I have a holdover on that. But I was actually happy for Penix yesterday. It was a good debut for him.
He's a Husky. You better hold out though. I mean, we could have a former Husky player being our head coach for our college football team. So,
who's that?
Jim Mora.
Oh, he's not going to get the job. Do you want? What are you hearing that?
I think he's a legitimate candidate. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I honestly, I could get on board with Jim Mora. I like Jim.
I think he's a legitimate candidate for the job. Yes.
Okay. I think that'd be kind of fun.
And I just would love to see the two fan bases tear each other apart over that one. I'm just telling you, let's in the hypothetical world they hire Jim Mora. Please, for the love of God, hire Hugh as an offensive analyst.
Oh, God, could we get Hugh as offensive coordinator?
Oh, I would sign up. God, I would sign up. So then we could sit there and nitpick him after every game.
Yeah,
and we could have the Hugh Millen show. He could come on.
Yeah, I bet you Hugh would be all over the thought of moving from Fountain Hills to Pullman, Washington.
Can you imagine going to his wife? Hey, we're going to move from this 5,000 square foot compound that is just gorgeous, where it never dips below 75. And we're gonna pick it up. And now all the you know how you like to go to the fashion mall down there in Scottsdale, right? And you pal around with all your girlfriends for Wine Thursdays. We're gonna replace that. I'm gonna give you your Wine Thursday, but it's gonna take place at Rico's with all the with all the player coaches' wives, and it's gonna be miserable. And we're gonna live up by a grain elevator. What do you say?
The thing about the Cougar coaching search, though, to me, we've reached the point of anything goes.
Sure.
It like whoever. That's why I brought up Neuheisel too. I mean, I do like the idea of Neuheisel still, but at this point, with the state of college football and where we are with the Cougar program, why not just go out of the box? Let's just go out of the box. I know this Montana State guy. He's probably the guy that we should hire, but I kind of like the idea of rolling the dice, gambling on somebody that's just like, why did they hire him?
Yeah.
Because Mora would be kind of a hire like Coach Prime there in Colorado, or same with Neuheisel. It would give us some national, a little bit of it.
A little pizzazz. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to get into more of that later, but let's go back to the Seahawks for a second. I'm telling you, there's a lot of people that want Grubb replaced.
Well, I just wonder if you bring that up. Well, like who? Like who? Somebody like fans online?
Yeah, I mean,
because I didn't see any of that last night.
Okay.
Okay, if we do the blame,
I'm going to do a little exercise.
Hold on. That people like doing in sports radio.
Yeah, I'm going to search his name.
What percent does Grubb get for the blame for the loss yesterday?
What percentage of the blame pie does he?
1% for me.
Okay, 1%. Well, I will agree with those. I thought he abandoned the run way too early yesterday. Way too early. They were getting some good runs early on. So, I mean, some really nice little holes. And he just kind of stopped doing it. I do think, though, he's getting criticized for the third quarter running. I mean, I think you go back and look at some of those third quarter runs, they were getting 1 yard, 2 yards, and then he's like, well, I got to throw the ball now.
They scored 24 points.
I don't know how much of the blame yesterday goes to Ryan Grubb and his problems with not running the football. This was a defense that came in, I think, second in the NFL against the run. So, their game plan was probably to throw the ball. They had success throwing the ball. They were moving the ball through the air. They get themselves in some stupid penalties, though. You know what I mean? Some just dumb penalties where they get themselves behind the chains, and then they just can't recover from it. I think Geno.
I think it's behind schedule. If you want to, bring that up.
Well, behind schedule? Isn't it behind the chains too?
Behind schedule. But I think behind schedule is the favorite cliche there.
But I would say this about Grubb. Grubb's not responsible for the nearly 4 interceptions that your quarterback threw. He should have had 4. He had 2, but 4. He had 2 interceptions that were dropped. 2 of them. So that's not his fault. I don't know what happened on the DK play. Hugh and others who break that down can all break it. Dan Orlovsky did something on Twitter last night. And again, they get into the weeds on it. I'll just say this. As a football fan watching it, it looked like a lazy route to me. We've all watched football forever. It looked like he didn't try very hard on the route. All right? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we're all wrong that think that. But did it look like he gave great effort on it? It didn't look like he gave great effort on it to me. Now, part of it is, if you go back and watch it, I mean, the guard, LeMaya, the rookie, gets his ass kicked. His absolute ass kicked. And they rushed 3 on it. They couldn't give this guy time, and they rushed 3. To me, it's a broken record. It just comes down to, at times, they cannot block. And you can't call plays when you can't block. Go back and watch it. The guy makes a spin move, and before Geno can plant his foot to throw the ball, he's got some tub of goo in his face.
No, I'm just laughing.
Stupid.
laughing. God, that's really some good insight there.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Well, you can go listen someplace
Thank you
else.
for breaking it down. Like
you go
know,
listen to someplace else who's going to go
Yeah.
do stupid all 22 and try to tell you how it's Ryan Grubb's fault all the time or it's Geno's fault all the time. At some point, it just comes back to the offensive line isn't very good. And on that particular play, we can blame DK. You can blame Geno. The guy that needs to be blamed the most is Laumea. He's the problem on that play. Because the second he takes the ball, he's in his face.
Yeah. Well, and the issue shouldn't be at the line of scrimmage if they're rushing three against.
They're rushing three dudes. Jesus. But yeah.
I mean, I'm going to go with Orlovsky. He seemed to have a good breakdown of it. He really didn't blame either one. He said it was like 50%. You can blame Geno if you want on that. He had to throw it too early, like you're pointing out. But DK, did he break off his route? Was he at fault there? It seemed to me in the post game when Geno talked to reporters, his answer, he took all the blame, but you felt like that there was more to it than what he was saying.
Of course, and I'm going to play. We got started off. I had all the videos, ready to go, and then we had to restart the show because something happened. I'm going to give you the soundbite from Mike Macdonald because I'm going to tell you right now. Mike, there's a lot there that Mike Macdonald wanted to say last night during the postgame show when he was asked about, well, hey, what happened with the Geno and DK interception?
On the final pass from Geno, there was miscommunication?
No. Just I got to look at the tape. I mean, I know the route just didn't seem like. I don't know. I was going to look at the tape. I'll get back to you tomorrow, honestly.
Yeah. That's my favorite when they say got to look at the tape. We got to look at the tape. You don't have to look at the tape. He knows what the answer was. What he was. Well, I mean,
he caught himself there, didn't he?
Of course, he caught himself. He didn't blame Geno. He said it wasn't miscommunication. To me, it's either one of two things he's saying. One, we couldn't really get off because our right guard got his ass kicked, or our wide receiver ran a lazy route.
Okay, but why would DK do? Let's say that's what happened. Why would he do that?
I don't know.
No, I know, but I'm asking.
Why do you drink on a Tuesday? I don't know.
That's what we're just speculate. Play along with me. Why would you do that? If you're DK, like okay, I'll speculate. Maybe like, God, I only have 3 catches today. I'm sick of this. JSN, he's getting all the targets, and I'm making $24 million, and I should be. I mean, but we haven't heard that from him. We haven't seen any unhappiness about what's going on with DK and his number of targets, number of catches. No. He's having the last 6 games. He hasn't been the DK Metcalf we've been accustomed to. JSN's been the leading receiver for a month and a half now. So do you think he just thought, fuck it, I'll give a half-assed effort here because I'm sick of it. The ball's probably not going to come to me anyway. Do you think maybe that was going on?
Yeah. You know what? I'll buy
too much.
No. I'll buy whatever you're selling. I don't know. I just know as a casual football fan, and again, you and I and others. One, I'm not qualified to sit here and break down all 22 tape. Nobody is on Twitter, and no one's qualified to do it.
Well, some are.
No, they're not. Unless you coached and can go sit up there and challenge one of these Dan Orlovskis of the world to a whiteboard competition, then you're not qualified to talk about what.
Okay, number one, that stuff bores the shit out of me. And
of course it does. It bores me.
And number two, I always get a kick out of the guys who think they're so smart about football, breaking it down, and like showing me with their little pointer thing, and then their highlighter and all that.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
I just think it looked like to me a guy that ran a lazy route. It looked lazy to me. Looked like he stopped. It looked like he kind of gave up on the play. It's the same thing with Woolen on the touchdown to Jefferson. I thought Woolen, whatever he was supposed to do, looked like he just kind of stopped. Now you're going to tell me, that he wasn't supposed to do that. He was supposed to stop there, that it's maybe on Julian Love. I don't know who it was on, but obviously they weren't connected. They didn't communicate, and it cost them the game.
I kind of like the idea of double teaming the best receiver on the field.
I don't know. That might be a fucking maybe do that.
And if you get beat by their tight end, Hawkinson or whatever, okay.
Again, this is where I go back to this. It just felt like a lot of it coming out last night was fire Ryan Grubb talk. Time to get.
I didn't see
Okay,
that.
well,
But
you know
I'll
what?
take
Hold
your
on.
word for it. I'll take your word for it.
Well, you don't got to take my word for it. I'm just telling you.
Why? I'm gonna
There's
take
just
your
a
word
lot
for
of
it. You're my
people.
buddy. You wouldn't lie to me.
Hold on. I'm going to share this with you. Hold on, because I just pulled up his name on Twitter. Okay.
But just some random 12 or what?
It's just random people. Okay. Chris Clough, Ryan Grubb has done well. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. Ryan Grubb.
Doesn't Clough cover the Seahawks?
I don't know.
You're saying I don't know a lot.
I might. Here, Pop says, what has Ryan Grubb done for this offense this season besides the JSN usage? My God, what a year makes. A year ago, everyone in Seattle was saying how amazing Ryan Grubb is. Now everyone wants him fired. I mean, it's just Grubb has too much NCAA stuck in his head there from Ryan. Hey, there's your buddy Corbin Smith. Why won't he run the football? Corbin Smith's not a Ryan Grubb fan. Hey, there's Chris Kidd. I mean, there's just a lot of Ryan Grubb talk about whether or not he'll be removed at the end of the season. I don't know. Maybe him and Mike Macdonald aren't getting along. Maybe he's not running the system that Mike Macdonald wants. But I'll say this. I always go back to this. He is the head coach. If he wants his offensive coordinator to run the ball more, then you know what he does? He goes down. Hey, Ryan, yeah, run the ball now, and just keep running it until I tell you to stop running it. He's the head coach, right? Does he have the final say on what they do?
That's the same thing we always talked about with Pete Carroll. We didn't feel like the Seahawks ran the ball enough under Pete Carroll, which it always was. Pete being a defensive guy, you figured they would do more of that. But
okay, then run the ball more. You're the head coach. Tell him to run the ball more.
It might come back to what you were saying, though. The tendencies, the stats that they saw, and if you're number 2 in the NFL in run defense, why bang your head against the wall? Although the Vikings had some games, I guess the Cardinals were successful running against them. There was another team that ran for 150 against them, so maybe the Seahawks didn't put enough of an effort into that. But he sure seems to get a lot of the blame, and I don't think it's justified. It didn't even occur to me yesterday. They scored 24 points. They had the ball with a minute to go. They could have gone down there and gotten a field goal. And maybe if Geno doesn't get sacked on that play, Myers comes in and makes a 53-yarder instead of missing a 60-yarder. They go to overtime and win. And then everybody's like, well, Ryan Grubb, why would you complain about him? Because they scored 30 points and they won 30-27 in overtime.
Well, think about it, right?
And that's a 12-2 team they played.
On 2 of those scoring drives, or all on the 2 or 3 touchdown drives. What was Smith not perfect?
Yeah, he was 5 on the go ahead.
On 2, but even in the one before the halftime, he was perfect as well.
Yeah.
So does Grubb get any credit for that, or is that just Geno?
No, it's all Geno.
Okay, so it's just all Geno. So he doesn't get any credit for that. Okay, I want to make sure that he gets no credit. I mean, for people who wanted them to run the ball more. Again, I wanted to run the ball more. I thought there were some opportunities. I thought when they were under center and they were doing some things, Walker had some good touches early on. I thought, okay, well, here we go. In the first drive of the third quarter, they ran the ball 3 times for 3 yards. Okay, well, you wanted to run the ball more, and then they don't get anything. The second drive, Walker goes up the middle for 2 yards. They go 3 and out. Last series carries over the 4th. They started from their 8-yard line. Okay, well, you're going to pass from that situation anyways. The 3rd and 1 incompletion to Fant. I mean, again, I think they pointed out on TV, he had Charbonnet wide open and just decided to go to Fant for some reason. The one after the fake punt. Remember, they get the fake punt.
Yep.
They, you're like, okay, here they get 1st and 5, and everyone wanted them to run the ball at 1st and 5. I didn't. That's a shot play. I would have taken a shot downfield on that, but they try to run that screen. Doesn't a guy how long has Geno played in the league for? It's over 10 years, right?
Yep.
Okay. Shouldn't a guy who's played in the league for over 10 years, when he drops back and he sees like 3 linemen right on his running back, just throw the ball into the ground rather than throw it to him?
Yeah, you see that from a lot of quarterbacks where you're thinking, okay, this play's not going to work.
Yeah,
so.
And that was interesting. It was interesting. I mean, but he didn't get blamed for that. The sack, that's a crucial sack. You can't take a sack in a situation like that. He knows that. You got to get rid of it. But as far as the Metcalf thing, to me, Macdonald's and again, we read into this stuff. To me, it seemed as Macdonald, he was saying it wasn't miscommunication, that I read it as DK didn't run his route properly. And then
and he had a good view of it too. It was coming right at that Seahawks sideline.
And then to give you further, well, no, it wasn't. No, was it? I thought it was on the Viking side.
Okay, well, maybe I'm wrong about that. I had a 50-50 shot.
I think it was on the, yeah, there you go. I think it was on the Viking sideline. But to give you more evidence that maybe it was DK's fault, he didn't talk to the media afterwards. If you read Dugar, I don't think it was in Condotta's piece, but it was in Dugar's piece. Maybe they couldn't find him. Dugar went up to him and he declined to talk.
I think that was good on his part.
It's not good. We want these guys to speak and say something out of turn.
Because he probably thought, I got to filter myself today. There's a lot of things I'd like to say. No, I know. I'm with you on that. But probably smart on his part. His agent probably commended him for that. He can talk about it on Wednesday or whatever his day of the week is. Or wait a minute, they got a Thursday game this week.
They got a Thursday game. I feel so bad for the people that cover this team. and then the players and everybody. They got to go work on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day.
They're covering sports for a living. Come on,
Jim. They don't got to be with their family. They got to go to a Mike Macdonald press conference on Christmas.
I'm upset about calves dying. I'm not going to be upset about sports writers being inconvenienced.
Well, come on. It's a job.
I had to do that.
Oh.
Okay, Christmas Day. Christmas. No. I'm not complaining about it. I'm just stating fact. When I was covering the Sonics.
But some of these people like their families. You don't.
Myself, but whatever. I was so well paid, I didn't care. No, I wasn't well paid, but I enjoyed my job so much.
Do you think you would have enjoyed it less if you enjoyed your family at the time?
I don't know. I didn't quite follow what you just asked me there. Well, Greg Bell and, Condotta can bring his girlfriend to Chicago with him,
Well, Condotta doesn't have, John Boyle's got a young family. He wants to be at home.
Well, Boyle can stay at home. He works for Seahawks.com. He doesn't have to go to the games.
Someone asked me this question just to, we go back to the Grubb thing. And this would be a great question. I think they would never answer it. But, how much does Geno change the play at the line of scrimmage? I don't think we know that. We don't know the answer to that. We don't know if there's
I'm sure he's got the freedom to do that, and you want him to have the freedom to do that.
Of course, I would expect him to have the freedom to be able to change the play. So how do we know that Ryan Grubb has called a run with obviously he can check out of it, and that he quarterbacks like to throw. They really, really do. And so I don't know the answer to that.
Don't you think there should be more, if there's going to be complaints about stuff and why they lost, shouldn't it be directed more toward the defense and the offense? The offense went down and got a game ahead. They went ahead on that touchdown with 4 minutes to go. So it's up to the defense to keep that lead. And then you could argue, well, if Murphy hadn't had it sure as shit looked to me like he had his hand on a face mask.
That was a face mask. What are people talking about? And what is Byron? I love Byron Murphy, but buddy, you are completely wrong on this one. Yeah, I have the video. You want to see it?
They're not going to call that every single time, but generally speaking, they're going to see that.
Jim, hold on. This was a clear, clear face mask by Byron Murphy. Clear. Not even close. Can you see that?
I think you're right. This has face mask here, though.
Hold on.
This has shades of that.
Come on. Look at that.
What? Why was he complaining about that?
Here's the other angle. Watch this one. Come on. What are we talking about here? Look at this. He's pulling his face mask down. What is he talking about? I love
the Seahawks fans. Are they in line with him on that?
No, I posted that this morning, and most everyone was like, "Yeah, what is he talking about?"
We'll all agree that it's unfortunate and it was unintentional, but it happened.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that it happened. It sucks. They should have been off the field. he would have sacked him no matter what, right? He didn't need to grab the face mask, but he did. He grabbed it, and they called it.
Everything happening so fast out there. Your hands are going. You're trying to bring the
Sure.
quarterback down, and sometimes you just get the hand to the face up there where you shouldn't.
It happens to the best of us. I thought the defense, for the most part, I just played okay. I mean, Sam Darnold played well. He had 3 touchdowns, no picks. They held their running game in check. I mean, they held them to 81 yards and 3.4 yards, I think, per attempt. I think total yards, they were under 300. I thought the defense actually played well. I mean, to hold that offense under 300 yards. But I think, to your point, though, when you go down and take the lead, and now you're saying we got 4 minutes or whatever it is to win the game, we need you to come up with the play defense. They didn't do it. And again, this is where, like, I don't understand why, like, that Macdonald doesn't get, or his defense doesn't get any blame for this. Like, they allowed him to go down like in a minute, like 4 plays, boom, 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 touchdown. Like, what happened?
Yeah, those two teams were evenly matched yesterday. I think we can all agree with that, can't we? It was an evenly matched game. And the 12-2 team came out on top. And the Seahawks very easily could have been the team that came out on top. I wasn't discouraged by the outcome of long-term, big picture type stuff. I mean, certainly it hurt their chances this year, but
hurt their chances this year
like
because
a team that's going in the right direction to me.
Yeah, they're going to need a lot of help now. Well, they need the Rams to lose. They need Arizona to knock them off. They have.
Hey,
to.
were you okay with Myers coming out there for the 60-yarder, or would you rather see him take a shot at it?
Well, no. What was it? 4th and 15?
Yeah.
No, just go for the 60. Try it.
Yeah, was that the tougher end of the stadium though to kick to? He was going south to north, wasn't he?
Not sure, but I mean, it's just it's wet, it's cold, and I mean, the probability of that happening was not very good. But
yeah, when he got ready to kick it, what'd you think? Like
that
no chance,
short.
or like 1% chance, 5%?
Of 1%.
Yeah,
1%.
The Dallas kicker would have made it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Myers has been good though. That's a tough kick.
No, it's not his fault. I mean, he came kind of close.
That's a tough kick. So, Macdonald's defense, I think the defense, showed some strides against, I think, probably a little bit lesser opponents. But I think you look at what they've, back-to-back games, they've given up 57 points to 2 offenses that were much better than they've seen in the past. So, although I think there was times that they played well yesterday. Minus the first drive, I thought they settled down. But, again, with the game on the line, they just couldn't come up with a play. And whatever's going on with Reek Woolen, they benched him, and whatever he did behind the scenes, and then his involvement in that play at the end, I mean, he just seems to – I don't know what happened to that guy this year, but he's all over the place.
No, I know. It's the team – I wonder what team rule he broke. He was pretty talkative and outspoken, wasn't he, about criticism that he's been getting and hearing from fans, and
yeah,
who knows what's going on there. But then Tre Brown coming in, okay, Puck, how many years has he played football? And I know he doesn't generally line up there on the line of scrimmage, but
how often do you see that called? It's one thing when a guy
jumps, like Michael Bennett used to jump all the time. You go, Michael, what are you doing? That's one thing. But when you line up offsides, and then I heard somebody said he wasn't warned by the official, and apparently
he said that. He goes, I wasn't warned by the official. I'm like, you need to know if you're lined up offsides or not.
I know.
God, man.
Like, let's see, you probably started when you were 8 years old playing, and you look over and you see the ball, and you know how far you can go up there.
It's funny because
and then to get scored on the next play.
Yeah, and then you go back, look at that. Isn't he? And you go, this is where it goes back to Macdonald and his defense. Isn't he matched up 1-on-1 with Jefferson with like no help at all? Well, what? So is that
your backup corner?
Is that Ryan Grubb's fault? Is it
Ryan?
I'm just asking. Is it Ryan Grubb's fault to leave a backup cornerback on the other team's best wide receiver and say, "F it, let him go, take him 1-on-1"? Somewhere, someone is going to blame that back on Ryan Grubb not running the ball more.
Probably. Yeah.
Come on.
That's a hard one to figure out. Your backup cornerback against
your backup corner
in the league.
I'd love to answer this from these guys that have been in the league forever, right? These great defensive coordinators and great offensive and defensive minds. I like to keep it simple, like playground simple, okay? Follow me on this one. Playground simple. One team has got a really good player who's a wide receiver that runs all around. The defense on the playground, the little sixth graders, the fastest kid on our team, and he's the best athlete. You know what I would do if I was on the team on defense? I would take the kid who's our best athlete, and I would say, you go cover him because he's the best athlete on their team, and just take him out. Stay with him.
Yeah.
Like that's what we do in you do that in basketball a lot, right? Why do they not do it? Like take Witherspoon and just say, hey, for today, we're going to put you on Justin Jefferson the entire game.
Yeah, didn't they do that sometimes with Richard Sherman?
Little bit. I'm just really curious why teams just sometimes I feel that they overthink it because they got to be in all these different coverages and all that. Sometimes just one-on-one, alpha male versus alpha male. And you say, okay, we'll take Jefferson out. We'll make Darnold or whoever beat us with Jordan Addison and Hawkinson and whoever.
Right. Yeah.
And if you do, great.
Yeah, don't let their best player beat you like you let happen yesterday.
Yeah, and he did. He just absolutely killed them. So, yeah, they need a lot of help. 18% chance to make the playoffs. The strength of victory benefits the Rams. So, again, this could be wrapped up this week because if the Rams beat the Cardinals, it's essentially over. I mean, they have to have a lot of stuff.
There's different scenarios, though, isn't there? Like if they both lose this week, doesn't that help the Seahawks somehow?
Yes, but then you've got to have other teams. You've got to have other teams lose. Well, no. If Seattle loses, they'd be 8-8.
Yeah, but if the Rams lose, they'd be what?
They'd be they're 9-6. Or they're 9-7.
So
they're
then if the
9-7
Seahawks
right now.
beat the Rams on the final day, they'd both be.
Yeah, but then it goes back. It's going to go back to the strength of victory thing again. You have to have that strength of victory. You have all these teams have got to lose for Seattle to have that advantage on that strength of victory.
Okay, so it's pretty remote.
It's pretty remote, and again,
they'll beat the Bears, though.
Are you sure? Are we sure?
No, I'm not sure. It's only 3.5 the line.
I know.
God, the Bears just aren't good.
We'll see.
Caleb Williams, I'd be wondering about him if I was a Bears fan. But
Short week. I wouldn't give up on him yet. He played okay yesterday. Short week. You got to travel out there. We'll see. I don't know. I'll tell you what stunk. Those college football playoffs stunk this weekend. Jesus, they won one good game. Not one of them.
God, it was painful. And I'm an underdog bettor, so it was not good at all for me.
No, it was terrible. They were not entertaining at all.
The Clemson-Texas game tried to be a good game.
Kind of did a little bit, and it kind of got there, but the rest of them were just stinkers. And this is not some like, oh, the committee got it wrong. I'm not gonna cry and defend Alabama and these other teams and SMU and all that other crap and whatever. Kirk Herbstreit yelling at the TV. By the way, what has happened to him? He feels like he's gone off a deep end a little bit, where he's like mad at the world. Have you got that sense from Herbstreit? He's just mad all the time.
What did he say that he was yelling about?
He's yelling at Indiana. Like his point is that Indiana should not have been in.
Oh,
and basically SMU should not have been in
because they were non-competitive in their
because
game.
They were non-competitive. And they didn't have the resume, and just because they won more games, and listen, there's a lot of what he said I agree with. Just because you've won more games than 11-1 team doesn't necessarily make them better than a 9-3 team. It's all about who you lost to, right? Like if the Cougars would have got in.
I looked at who was it I was looking at? I mean, there's some teams that are in there, and you're looking at who they beat. Indiana didn't have a great resume. No. SMU didn't.
No.
I figured the 8 versus the 9 seeded teams would be a good game, Ohio State and Tennessee, but that wasn't the case. God, Tennessee was completely overmatched there.
Terrible.
Yeah, it was tough. And as much as I think Boise State and Arizona State belong in there, they shouldn't have gotten a bye to the next round.
Yeah,
I mean,
just
look at that. They're double-digit underdogs in their next game, in their
it's
first game.
unbelievable. They all. I like ASU in the points.
Yeah, so Stevie
I
kind of
like.
like Sparky in that game.
Yeah, give
Yeah.
me ASU in the points and give me.
You're just saying that because you like Dillingham so much.
I love Dillingham. 14.
And
Give me
then
Dillingham.
Scataboo.
Scataboo. Give me old Genty. Give me 10.5.
Hey, I'm with you. You know, Troy Wins was right about Texas. He was right by half a point because I think kickoff Clemson was getting 13.5. But I was with you on that. I wouldn't trust Coach Sark as far as I could throw him. He's not going to win the national championship.
I just think that he's going to make a decision or something's going to happen. Defensively, they're really good. The quarterback doesn't seem like he's as good as everyone thinks he is. Like he's just going to make mistakes.
God, that'd be beautiful if ASU beat him.
Oh, wouldn't it be great?
Yeah.
Dillingham just doing keg stands at the midfield. It'd be
No,
awesome.
I want some of these so-called lesser teams, though, to at least show that they kind of belong, and we haven't seen that yet.
Yeah.
Indiana and SMU kind of let down the, people that are rooting for the little guys.
Yeah.
And we need Boise State and ASU to have a better showing.
Yeah. I mean, it just wasn't. It didn't. It wasn't that I felt these teams didn't deserve to be in. They just weren't compelling games. They weren't fun. I mean, I just ended up turning every one of them off. Just it was like. They're just not fun to watch right now. I didn't like the fact that they were on TNT. To me, that's just
it
not
was
college
Mickey Mouse.
football.
Like, wasn't True TV or something?
Yeah,
too?
it was. And then I just cannot stand Mark Jones. So the second I saw Mark Jones on the Penn State SMU call, I was like, I'm already done.
He's smug, isn't he?
Oh yeah, he's just an arrogant fool. He's terrible. And then never heard of the analyst who was on the call with him. And it's just,
don't Husky fans hate that guy too? Didn't he have some? Was that the
Mark Jones and the Quint Kessenich, the guy who was on the sideline? They're the ones who did the cupcake thing.
Yeah.
Were you
okay with all those teams having home games in the playoff?
Yeah.
Were you? Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
I hope when they change the format, if they do change the format, which again I think they will, I hope the quarterfinals are also at home too. Wouldn't you love to see Boise State? Wouldn't you love to see Penn State have to go from the 100,000 seat stadium in Happy Valley, who they never travel, right? These teams never travel from the Big Ten or the SEC. Wouldn't you love to see Penn State have to find out, how do we fly into Boise? And then when they get there, they're like, we're playing on the turf's blue? I'd pay so much money. And then can you imagine the scene, Jim, in Tempe, Arizona, if Arizona State was hosting Texas this weekend?
Oh,
Jesus.
So much fun.
Give me a half rack and a Viagra. My God. Can you imagine?
Okay. You do agree, though, that Boise State and ASU shouldn't have gotten a bye?
Well, of course. Yes.
Okay. But
Absolutely.
I mean, it's so easy to say, of course, now. So
yeah.
They valued the conference championship way too much, especially based on those two conferences.
Yeah, they should just seed it 1 through 12, and just the top 4 seeds they get the place. Or they get the
Boise State and Arizona State, yes, deserving to be in the party.
Yeah.
but not where they were.
But like this, I'd like to see Oregon. I mean, I'd like to see, because I think these teams that got the top 4, I think their fans get punished a little bit. Because these other teams got to have a home game. Like for Oregon, like they don't get to have a home game. I mean, they go to the Rose Bowl, and that's going to be unbelievable. It's be great and all that. But
isn't that cool that it's going to be Oregon and Ohio State? I know they're both Big Ten, but still, to me, it's like Pac-12 against Big Ten the way it should be.
Yeah.
But Oregon got screwed. Number 1 team in the country, undefeated.
Of course,
and they got to play Ohio State in the first game.
I mean, a lot of people are going to say the same thing this week, but this is almost, in a way, the de facto national championship game, and it's in the quarterfinals.
Yeah. And the number 1 seed should not be an underdog in Vegas, but they are.
I know. Ohio State's a 2.5-point favorite.
So, yeah.
Whatever. I mean, I'm
nitpicking here because I like the 12-team concept, and I hope they go to 16. I think 16 would be great. And you can also say, well, there's out of the 12 teams this year, there's only 4 with a legitimate shot of winning. But but who knows? I mean, maybe Boise State will make it to the final game. Probably not. I'm so hoping that Genty has a big game, whether they win or lose, just so that they can say, well, he did it against so-called tougher competition. And I know he did it against Oregon earlier in the season, but I still think that there's going to be, well, yeah, he piled up a lot of yardage against Washington State and UNLV and all these other teams that weren't all that good anyway.
What did you think? Did you read the Mea Culpa interview, Jake Dicker with John Canzano?
I did read it.
And?
Yes, I did.
Thoughts?
Well, he came across better. He came across as well as I thought he could have.
He didn't really say anything, though.
No, but I felt a little better about his departure than I did when I had the knee-jerk reaction of
Interesting.
Screw him.
Huh. Yeah. I did not. I came away very different.
Okay. How'd you come away from it?
I just came away that it was a PR agent did the interview for him, told him what to say. I thought John asked great questions, but he didn't answer anything. I mean, he was like a politician in the thing. Like John would ask him a question and then he'd completely answer something else. Like I'm gonna pull it up because there was the one that really cracked me up when
he said, "Is that a question, John?" That one. Or do you have a
that
question,
one,
John?
Yeah. Hold on, where was the question? He had a question that it was so funny that he basically didn't even answer the question at all. I'll find it in a second. I think at the end that just when I read it finally at the end, and I just almost threw up in my mouth when he goes, John's like, I'll give you the final word here. You're speaking of Washington State fans. He gives, I got so much admiration, all that. And then at the end, he goes, I'm just looking forward to watching what happens and finding my way back home someday.
You didn't tear up on that?
God. Practice that. He practiced that in the mirror before the interview. How am I going to sneak this in? Find my way back home. God. Come on.
So you felt basically after reading that he can still shove it up his ass. Is that how you felt?
So here he goes, yeah, well, come on. I think he couldn't wait to get that line out. Here's one question. John asks him, this isn't your thing anymore at Washington State, but if the WSU regents and the university president are listening, and I think they are, they've got to spend, they've got to invest. Are you packed? They got to spend and they got to invest. Dickert answered it this way. Well, it's been a 48-hour whirlwind. You just got to go and try to plan, and we're going to go and have Christmas and try to make it as special as we can for Candace and the kids.
Nothing to do with the question.
Nothing to do with the question. Like, nothing at all. He said it was a joke when he took a shot at the Northwest recruiting. Okay.
It wasn't.
I mean, I watched it. Didn't come off as a joke at all. So I think that John asked everything he could ask. I just think that, and I think Dickert just gave the responses that he did. And, I mean,
okay. Will you give him
I don't know what else he was going to say.
Will you give him credit for consenting to an interview?
Yeah. Well, yeah, sure. I reached out. We'll see what Wake Forest says.
Oh, you had to go. Oh, you didn't have any other channel you could go through? Like,
no.
Bill Stevens, could he help you still?
No. Well, it's not Bill Stevens' problem anymore.
No, I know. I think, hopefully he'll do it with you because he made a commitment to you to do the entire season. And I think it'd be weak on his part to not honor that. But he's probably going to figure, well, I did the thing with Canzano, and that's going to be that.
Well, we'll see. You can go read it for yourself. JohnCanzano.com. The sit down with Jake Dickert.
What are you hearing about his replacement? You touched on it briefly. You think Jim Mora is a candidate?
I think Jim Mora is I think Jim Mora is a legitimate candidate. I think people are going to be probably taken aback by it a little bit, but and again, I'm just gonna whoever they hire, I'm just gonna go open mind. I'm gonna make any rash decision. The only thing that I would say, I personally do not want to see a first-time head coach get the job. So I don't want to see Kirby Moore or Jamarcus Shepard. Me
Why?
personally. I think you got to have some experience, something, a staff, a philosophy, something that works that you can lean on. And Kirby Moore's been an offensive coordinator for 2 years. Jamarcus Shepard's never been his own offensive coordinator, by the way. He's only been a co-offensive coordinator. And I think when you are a first-time head coach, and I think that was part of Jake Dickert's problems at times, and the way he inherited the program, you have to assemble an entire new staff, people you've never worked with before. You know, a guy like Brett Vigen comes in, the coach at Montana State, you know, he's going to take his entire staff with him. So there's familiarity with it. They know his system. There's a philosophy to it. You know, if Jim Mora gets hired, he's going to bring majority of his guys, or he has a Rolodex of people that he can lean on. That's just my preference. I'm not, you know, maybe they hire Moore and Moore turns out to be a fantastic head coach, then okay. But my preference would be to find someone that's got some coaching experience.
Okay, my preference is that I'm open to anything and everything. It doesn't matter. You know, typically I wouldn't say that, but the state of college football where it is now, maybe Kirby Moore would come in and just be gangbusters as a head coach. And it's if Ann McCoy feels like he's the leading guy and if he impresses the hell out of her in the interview, then go ahead and hire him. I think whoever they hire, I'm going to be like, okay, I'm okay with it. You took a gamble, you know, maybe you should have gone with so-and-so, but you thought this guy was better. And I'm sick of guys coming. And I know that we're a stepping stone school, but you know, Mora wouldn't be that guy, I don't think. I mean, he's in his 60s.
63. And Vigen, I probably would be. I think you have to get assurances from all these coaches. How do you have a succession plan there if you leave? I think that's an important question they'd have to ask. Like, how do you build it to where if you leave, do you have something that can you can hand it off to? And I think that's where my worry with Moore would be. So young. Listen, he has success. He'd bolt pretty fast. The Boise job ever comes up, he's out if he were a good coach.
Yeah. He's a Prosser kid, though. I mean, that would help a little bit.
With what?
What? Well, that I don't know. Shit, he's from east of the mountains. He loves the area. It's so good to be back. He can actually say it's nice to find his way back home.
I think Prosser's a little different than Pullman, but
not a whole lot.
All right, we'll see you on Wednesday. No, we're not going to see you on Wednesday because we're not going to be off. We'll see you on Friday. Merry Christmas to you and your family. Have a wonderful Mexican dinner on Christmas.
Okay, Merry Christmas. Go Cougs.
Go Cougs. All right.
See you, Puck.
Jim Mora with us Monday, Wednesdays, and Friday, brought to you by A Clean Streak. We make a transition now back to the National Football League and to your Seattle Seahawks. The Ground Puck Seahawks Podcast with Tim Booth of the Seattle Times, Curtis Crabtree of Fox 13. Gentlemen, how are we?
Morning, Puck.
Good Puck.
Yeah, we're doing good. All right. Well, it was a good game for a while. It was entertaining. It was competitive. But in the end, I mean, the Seahawks take a major step back with their loss yesterday there to the Vikings, and now their playoff hopes out of their hands. They need some help there from the Rams to kick a game. But what were your thoughts, your takeaways from the game yesterday?
It once again highlighted that against good competition, this team has zero margin for error. I think that was the thing that jumped out again yesterday. And maybe more so than in other games this year, like when they played the Bills and sort of got hammered and even, last week against the Packers. Yesterday really highlighted that thin line that they're walking. We've talked about it throughout the year, but you can't have the defensive breakdowns that you had in key moments yesterday. You can't have your offensive coordinator calling a 1st and 10 pass play that puts your quarterback at risk of taking a sack. You can't have your veteran quarterback taking a sack in that scenario. There were just these little moments yesterday that jumped up where it once again highlighted, they don't have the margin for error that other more talented teams right now do. And it's left them in this position where they've lost complete control of their postseason hopes and now need Kyler Murray and Arizona playing for absolutely nothing to come through and help them out if they really want to make Week 18 meaningful.
Curtis, what was your headline from the game yesterday?
I don't know if I have like one specific headline because so much of it was bad in a lot of ways. Because I mean, I'm pointing specifically more so to the offense. And I just keep coming back to how much has to be on Geno Smith's plate because of everything, because of the offensive state of the offensive line, the plays that they call throughout a game to where they don't/can't run it to balance out the offense. And like, I don't know why it bothered me so much, but the 1st and 5 play that they had yesterday, after they get a penalty and they run DK on a motion across the backfield and then try to throw a backside screen, just run the damn ball. Like at some point, like you've got a 1st and 5, you haven't run the ball more than 2 or 3 times the entire game at that point. You're in a 1st and 5. Like just give yourself a carry to do something to balance out the offense. It's stupid in the big picture of the thing, but for whatever reason, it just seemed like ridiculous they still wouldn't run the ball in a play situation like that, and it ends up being a 6-yard loss to where they're in 2nd and 11. I literally looked up and thought, oh, that play lost a yard. No, it lost 6 because it was 1st and 5. I mean, I'm getting a little away from the point here, but then you end up needing a last minute 50-second drive from your quarterback to try to bail you out, and you get a 3-man rush with a defensive tackle winning instantly to get on him in about a second, about a 3/4 of a second, to where he throws the ball up the sideline, gets picked off. Whether DK did the right thing on the route, I watched a breakdown from Dan Orlovsky last night where he basically said the D-tackle pressure on him immediately, like there's not a ton to do because he's supposed to run that route at 18 to 22 yards, and he got to about 13 before the ball was out of his hands because of the pressure. So, I mean, it wasn't great. Geno threw 4 interceptable passes yesterday. Well, I should say 3. One of them got tipped to make it interceptable. But yeah, it just not pretty. And they held up. They kept up with a good Minnesota team. Right? Like that loss is not going to be the loss that sinks them at the end of the day. It's the Giants' loss back in October. Like losing to that terrible football team at home. That's the game that's really the one in hand here that's going to hurt them and keep them out of the playoffs when all is said and done.
When you guys were sitting in there and Macdonald gave the I don't know who asked the question, when Macdonald gave the answer to, hey, what happened on the final play with Geno and Metcalf, and he just gave like a very politician answer, and it's like I got to watch the tape. I mean, he caught himself to what he really wanted to say. We speculate. I mean, my speculation, Tim, was he was wanted to blame DK for running the wrong route. I don't know. That's just what I speculated right away. Maybe he wanted to throw the offensive line under the bus because it was, you had pressure so quickly into Geno's face. But he did say, hey, listen, there was not miscommunication on that one.
Yeah.
What did you read into it?
I think in the moment when he said there was not miscommunication on that, I thought, okay, that's on DK running the wrong route. But when you go back and watch the tape of it, I think he was trying to keep from blowing up the offensive line with his comment, because if there's not miscommunication, if they both were on the same page about what was supposed to happen on that play call, then the only person Macdonald could be blaming in that instance is the offensive line. Because if that play is blocked correctly and Geno has the time and DK is running the correct route to the right spot, Geno's not throwing the ball when he had to throw it. Because otherwise he's taking a sack on the 2-yard line, and you're even more screwed at that point than just throwing it up there and seeing what the hell happens. So I took it as though he was biting his lip from blaming specifically Oluwatimi, because he was the one who got beat so badly.
Was it Olu or was it Laumea?
It was Olu. It was
okay. I thought it was Laumea. I screwed that up then.
If I remember right, it was Olu from looking at the tape. Curtis will double check for me while I'm sitting here spouting things that might be right or might be wrong.
But the bigger picture is you can't have someone, when you're rushing 3, have a guy right in your face.
Correct. And I mean, it was, as Curtis pointed out, it was instantaneous. It was I can't remember it was actually a linebacker who was lined up over the nose, and he did a little spin move. And was instant. It was just a flat loss by the Seahawks offensive line. And Geno had no time on the play. Like, you could debate the call, whose fault it was, whatever. Geno had to get rid of the ball, otherwise he was going to take a sack. So it was what it was. Give the credit to the Vikings pass rusher for winning and absolutely blowing up the timing of that play.
It was Olu. He just got whoever it was rushing on him, beat him in a quarter second. Spin move and was by him instantaneously.
Yeah, I thought it was Laumea when I initially saw it, but if it just then it's on Olu, then it's just on. I mean, again, just inexcusable to have that happen when you're rushing three guys against your offensive line. Curtis, you go back to again the talking point out of the game is just going to be again it's from fans, and I understand it, but you guys both mentioned this lack of attacking the run game. How much of yesterday, Curtis, do we put on Ryan Grubbs and his play calling?
I do start to think now that we're 16 games in the season, whatever it is, that the narrative about it I think is growing more so to the play calling aspect of it, because there was certainly a long stretch of the season where they just flat could not run. Like every time they tried, it was a negative play. Like I don't think they've been that bad with running the football since the Arizona game down there. I mean, obviously Zach Charbonnet had the big game, but they've had the ability to get a run here or there. They had a couple good ones called back via penalty yesterday, which is another big issue you want to point out. I think they had 6 or 7 procedure penalties alone, 4 or 5 of those on the offensive line yesterday. It was a big problem for them. But at the end of the day, I think they ran 59 offensive plays because the fake punt is technically considered an offensive play. 46 dropbacks to pass in that situation in a game that was really a one-score game for most of the afternoon. Yes, it got to 10 points late in the first half, but they got that back before halftime. You can't tell me that situationally they were chasing it all game to where they have to throw every single down like they were doing. And this is for a quarterback that was coming into the game somewhat iffy because of the injury he had last week, and you ask him to do that much with the game plan. I just didn't think that was necessary for them. So, it comes back to the offensive line. I get that's been their crux all year. Finding a way to be successful running the football. Maybe they just lost so much faith in it, but I do think play calling is now legitimately a part of the conversation to wonder about what they're going to do there, because you've heard a couple of the quotes from Mike Macdonald in recent weeks seeming to be, frustrated, by them not running the ball as much as they would like to in theory. And I don't think yesterday's game was so skewed from a situational standpoint where they couldn't have run the ball more. Like that 1st and 5 play I mentioned, there was opportunities to run the football if you wanted to, and it just seems like more often than not they don't want to and can't when they try.
Tim?
Yeah, I think it's now a legitimate thing to be talking about whether there's enough evidence now. I think you can talk about whether Ryan Grubb is the right fit moving forward, and that's taking into account everything that's going on with the team, the issues with the offensive line. Maybe you decide to run it back next year, and they actually go out and address the line as we talked about this offseason, and say, okay, go run your offense with a actual competent NFL offensive line. That being said, you were averaging 5 yards a carry in the first half yesterday. And yeah, you didn't have the ball very much in the first half because you had, the 3 and out and the 1 long touchdown drive. And so you didn't have a whole, and then you went 2 minutes at the end of the half. So you didn't have a whole lot of possessions, but when they had it going, the times that they gave Walker the ball, he did okay. Like they did okay. They averaged 4 yards a carry for the game. That's acceptable at this level. And as Curtis said, the situational way the game played out, there were opportunities where you could have mixed in a few more runs here and there. And the one caveat with this is we don't know how often Geno's maybe got a 2-play option and is changing it at the line. And maybe it's a run call and he decides because of the look that they're going to go to pass. And Minnesota had the number 2 or number 3 run defense in the league coming into yesterday. But in a game like that, where, as Curtis pointed out, you're not chasing it, sometimes you just have to do it for the sake of doing it. You just have to run the ball. And if you get 2 yards, you get 2 yards. And if you get 3 yards, you get 3 yards. And you don't always have to try and gather those yards through your passing game. Sometimes those little incremental pieces that make an offense work can come from the little chunk runs of 2, 3, 4 yards that just remind the defense that, hey, you can actually run the damn ball. So I think there's a conversation to be had about if Ryan Grubb is not going to be able to evolve in this in the offseason, and they don't put a serviceable offensive line out there, do you need to make a change at that spot with your play caller going into next year?
I think it's a good point that you bring up too. Is I only they would know this. Like, I don't know what he calls at the line of scrimmage if he checks out of it. I have no idea, because he could easily very well could be a run play that they get up there and then he sees the defense and goes, "No, we're checking out. We'll go to a pass." Only they know.
The other thing they do, and it's a very college thing, and it's becoming more prevalent in the NFL, but they do a lot of check with me's at the line. You know, they go no huddle, they'll line up, they'll see what the defense is showing, and then, you know, Grubb will get on the mic and call in something into Geno's headset, and the receivers are getting signals from the sidelines. Like, they do a fair amount of that, and probably more than I can recall seeing from an NFL team, because that's what Grubb did at Washington and previously at Fresno State. So you don't know also, like, they might be in a run package and they get up to the line and like, okay, now we're going to check, and it's okay, now we're going to go to a pass. So it is a factor that we as the general public don't know, because all we see is whatever the end result is.
Curtis, how much of that responsibility, if we keep hearing run it more after every game, does fall on ultimately on Mike Macdonald? I mean, he is the head coach.
He is the head coach, and I mean, he can certainly suggest through the headset, you know, I want to run it more. His quote on it last night was, some of it was Minnesota's personnel groups, how they're matching us. I think in some of those either or spots, we were able to pass it. That was efficient as well. So that's certainly part of it. And they had Sato Alomea, false start. Charles Cross, false start. Jake Bobo, illegal shift. AJ Barner, false start. Abe Lucas, false start. Farrell Brown, offensive holding. All of these penalties at the line of scrimmage, 5 of those procedural penalties to back them up. So some of those down and distance situations did get to where you're not going to run it because you're 1st and 15. You know, those sort of situations where it doesn't make sense to. But if it was just one game yesterday, we're not having this conversation as much. But it's been a constant thread for a while now that they're unable, unwilling, whatever the place you want to peg it, for their run pass splits just don't get anywhere close to being a balanced offense. And I'm not talking 50-50 balance. I'm talking about, like, even get anywhere close to 60-40 for balance. Because they ended up running it, I guess it would be 13 times total yesterday with their running backs, and running backs or receivers, because Jackson got a fly sweep too. It's just it puts a lot on the quarterback's plate to have to do everything for the offense. And I'm not shocked that there's some interceptions that happens when you do that, to get to the point where he's now had 15 on the year, I guess, thereabouts. When the offensive line is as poor as it's been. I mean, he only was sacked twice yesterday, but I think he was hurried about 20 different times on dropbacks. I mean, it's a war zone back there for Geno Smith with what he's trying to deal with on a play-in, play-out basis. And yeah, there's some bad decisions that creep in when you do that. I'm not shocked by that particular situation. They need to do more to help out whoever the quarterback is for the Seahawks, more than Geno Smith has got this year.
Yeah, and I thought I saw some frustrations yesterday. I think after that Walker long run that got called back for a holding on Farrell Brown, the TV caught his face, and he's just like, F it, man. Like, what do I got to do to get a good run? I get a good run, and it gets called back for holding. We don't run the ball anymore. We don't run the ball. I get one touch, and it's immediately called back. So there's no doubt it's got to be some frustration on Walker's part as well of not getting the ball enough.
Yeah, and I mean, Charbonnet didn't get a touch until the 13-yard reception he had for their first third down conversion of the game after starting 0 for 5. McIntosh had a couple good runs too. I mean, at least as a runner, Kenny looks like he can do some stuff for him at times. So he had that one catch that was nice. So look, the running backs are not the problem, I don't think. Like, when I watch them, I think all 3 of those guys can do some different things. It's beating a dead horse. It's back to the offensive line. The offensive line cannot do enough to function. And you know, for a lot of people who say that the Seahawks don't invest on the offensive line, 4 of their 5 starters on the offensive line right now are their own draft picks. They have invested draft picks on the offensive line. They have not done good enough with those picks, whether through the players themselves or the developing of them, to get to the place where they can be viable at the NFL level to do what the job they need to have done.
Do you think when you would look back at this season where they're at right now, and I don't know what people's expectations were for them. Tim, what were your preseason expectations or thoughts of with a brand new staff, after 15 games, where would they be?
About where they are, which goes back to how skewed maybe the expectations got by starting 3-0. And we kind of thought they would start 3-0 or had the chance to, because the schedule was set up so favorably, and then Tua gets hurt and you're playing Skylar Thompson and you're like, well, yeah, we should start 3-0. If you're the Seahawks. But this felt like what the end result of the year was going to be. Like they were going to be about a 500 team, and we all knew they had flaws. We all knew the flaws probably centered on the offensive line, and we all knew that a coaching change was going to take a certain amount of time to make the adjustment in season, especially when you had so many first time coaches in charge at such important positions, especially the head coach. So yeah, being, what are they, 8-7 right now? Like this is kind of what I thought they would be. I didn't expect them to be at 8-7 and having kicked away a playoff chance necessarily, but 8-7 is probably, if you polled everybody before the season, this is probably where they thought they were going to be.
Curtis, what were your thoughts heading into it? This is about where you thought they would be at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I figured what was their over-under was 7.5, right?
Yes.
I figured hammer the over. I thought they would be over that win total at the end of the year, so I thought they would get to 9, 10-ish wins for the season, so they're not off pace for that regard. How they got to those 9 wins probably would have been a little different. I would have thought they would have started, as Tim said, relatively quickly, would have got the Giants game, probably would have lost, that 49ers game down there. Maybe the path to get to where we are now be a little bit different than it was, but certainly anticipated some growing pains from the coaching staff, and we've seen that in a couple different instances throughout the season. And I think there's a lot of good to like with what they've done this year. And even with the criticism of Grubb when it comes to the running game here, I think they've done a lot of really nice stuff in the passing game. Like the touchdown to A.J. Barner was a very nicely schemed play to where Jackson crosses the middle of the field, draws the safety, and now Shaquille Griffin's got to cover, Barner from outside leverage. It's wide open for him. A really good play. A lot of their pass game design has done some nice stuff. The tunnel screen game that they've kind of been able to work out has been a nice addition to the offense. And so there are plenty of things from a pass game structure to like, but when the offensive line is what it is, we've talked about it a million times. It's tough to be super good on that side of the ball. The special teams obviously had its disaster week in New York, but Dixon and Myers have been phenomenal all season for them. Geno was far better the first half of the year than he's been the last half because of the interception number growing far faster the last 5-6 weeks or so. But there is plenty to like about what they've done, but whether they can get to where you want, and there's a lot of decisions they're going to need to make this offseason on a number of fronts. On personnel standpoints, it's going to change what this team looks like for next year.
I think getting to this point is what we all kind of expected. I think it's the route, as Curtis said. It's the way that they've gotten here. There's been so many wild ass swings this year. You start 3-0, you lose 5 straight, whatever, or 4 straight, or you lose 5 of 6, whatever it was, and then you think that you're trending toward completely being out of it. And then you win in San Francisco, and that starts a 4-game winning streak. And then you come home for 2 games, and you lose both of them, and you finish at home 3-6. Like, it's the wild swings of this season that I think have made it feel so extreme to one end or the other, even though the final sort of result is kind of where we all expected them to be at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think you go back and look at it. I think they've won every game they were supposed to win. And I think they've lost every game they were supposed to lose, but one, which you guys mentioned earlier, the Giants game.
Yes, I think that's a fair way to look at the season. But when you have these wild up and downs that look like a cardiac strip of someone having a heart attack, like it's just, it creates this feeling of chaos among the fans of like, we have no direction. What are we doing? We're great. We're great. We're going to go to the playoffs. We're going to, whatever. And oh my God, we're the worst team ever. We should tank and try and get the number 1 pick. Like, it just has been that kind of season among the emotional swings that they have created because of their kind of inconsistencies along the way.
And then I think it goes back, to the home mark, right? The home schedule, and everyone's, freaking out about it. And again, I'm not saying it's not an issue, but again, we can't take it back, but I think if you could just shift that Giants game. I mean, you are talking about three really good teams that came into your park that are very good with massively passionate fan bases. Two in particular, but the Vikings travel as well. So I mean, I think bigger picture, if you take a step back, now if they go and lay an egg on Thursday, then that's a problem. But I think we expect them to probably beat the Bears, and then I don't know the Rams. We'll see. I mean, the Rams are playing much better than them right now. It's not like it's going to be a great advantage for the Rams there. There'll probably be more Seahawks fans in that stadium when they play, or at least it will sound like it. But they have their word cut out for them as they finish it up. What are the scenarios right now? It's essentially over if the Rams win this weekend, is it not? Is that the simplest way to put it?
Basically, there is a strength of victory calculation where if 17,000 things line up in Seattle's favor and the moon is at half waning and Mercury is in retrograde, that maybe week 18 will still matter if the Rams beat the Cardinals this week. But really the only way week 18 is going to matter is if the Cardinals beat the Rams, period. End of story.
Yeah.
That would actually set up an NFC West championship game, which clearly would be either the Saturday or the Sunday night game on week 18. But yeah, they need help from the Cardinals this week. Big time.
Yeah. Let's go Cardinals. All right. Any finishing thoughts? Curtis, what do you want from Santa?
Well, an explanation on the final touchdown to Justin Jefferson would be a good one to have right about now too. I think that's one thing we didn't touch on.
Oh yeah, well,
to kind of figure out
whose fault was that.
I don't know. Other than it's a cover 2 play, so both Julian Love's supposed to have over the top coverage there. By the book, Reek Wallen's supposed to have the flat, but there's nothing else stressing his side of the field. There's all 3 other routes are on the other half of the field. So is he supposed to get deep and carry that deeper? And the running back stayed in the block. I don't know how they would coach that sort of thing, but situationally, like that, just you can't have it. The only way you lose is if you give up a touchdown there, to let that guy.
Yeah.
No, it didn't. So I don't know where the blame lies on that one. I don't, but Macdonald said last night it was cover 2 to that side, so we know what the coverage is. It's just a matter of how they're supposed to be coached on a specific play like that. That would be really curious to know right about now.
So you'd rather have
just on the heels of the fact that that Reek was benched yesterday to start the game too, and everything that went into that decision and everything. So yeah. Curious.
What do you think it was? Just him going off on like social media? Is that why?
I don't know about that. I think it probably has more to do with the play in its game last week, personally, but that's my assumption. I don't know.
Something
Jim,
happened in practice.
I think it's probably a combo of everything. He didn't play well. He's had some assignment issues this year. He did spout off on social media last week. Like it's probably just like, hey, chill the hell out, sit this series, watch Tre Brown get beat, and then you can go back in the game.
One thing I'd like to know, I mean, I don't think we touched on it, but as much as there's people are critical of Ryan Grubb and the play calling. I think a pointed question to Mike Macdonald, who calls the plays, would be, why did you think having Tre Brown locked up on the other team's best wide receiver with no help was a good call?
I think that's a fair question because, obviously other teams can scheme to try and create that situation, or you just say, hey, Spoon, hey, even Josh Jobe, like you're following Justin Jefferson, you're following Jordan Addison, like we don't care, just follow them. Like let's not get in a situation. And credit to Darnold, he threw a great ball. It was a terrific pass, but in no world should Tre Brown be ISO'd on Justin Jefferson. Period. End of story.
Yeah.
Well, and if Brown doesn't line up in the neutral zone the play before, you're off the field already anyway. So it leads to the whole sequence. So
is someone going to show Byron Murphy the video of him grabbing the face mask of Darnold and be like, it wasn't really BS, bud?
It's a face mask. Yeah.
Yeah. He'll I'm sure they'll show that one today at some point.
Okay. So, Egg Nog, yes or no?
God, no.
Oh, really?
Nope. Hell no.
I love
even with bourbon. No.
So good.
No, it's not.
All right.
It's disgusting.
What do you want from Santa, Tim? Curtis is not going to answer it.
What do I want from Santa?
Yeah, what do you want? What are you asking for? New golf clubs? You still playing with those shovels?
Hey, those are perfectly fine Callaway. What are they? X18s from
I don't know. They're from like 1978.
15 years ago. Curtis knows this. I finally upgraded my driver a year ago because I was still using a McGregor V foil from 2005. It sounded like a shotgun every time I hit the ball. But I would hit it.
Finally got something in his bag that wasn't made by old Tom Morris. So
yeah, wonderful.
But I would hit it straight, and Curtis knows I would hit it fairly far down the fairway. I mean, I think I was still using that when you and I played the last time.
You're a great stick. It would just imagine what you would shoot if you've had clubs that were made this century.
I've upgraded some of my clubs in the last year and a half. Right. So, I mean, of course I would take new irons. If someone wanted to deliver new irons to my house this weekend, if you have a sponsorship deal, Puck, and someone just wanted to drop off a set, I would be in favor of that one.
Hey, Pro Golf Discount. Are you listening? Come on.
Go. Yeah.
Is Putz still around? Yeah, I think
Putz is still around. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go. Putz
I was
or
there
Pro
on
Golf.
Sunday.
Let's go.
Saturday.
You can be a part of Puck Sports as long as we get new clubs.
Just call up your friend.
Crew was at the Furcrest crew was at the game yesterday too, so I saw those boys beforehand. So
I bet they were sober.
At the time, yes, but they were working on it.
They were working on it. You guys have a wonderful Christmas, and we'll talk to you next week. We'll be off a little bit this week, but we'll talk to you guys next Monday.
Sounds good. Have a good Christmas, Puck.
Yeah, you guys
as well.
Puck. There they are, Curtis Crabtree, Fox 13. Go check out his work there, fox13.com. And then also check him. He's on the TV as well. Plenty of times there. The Washington Sports Wrap. He's always doing shows there with Alyssa Charleston, also Aaron Levine on Fox 13. Tim Booth, Seattle Times. Go read all of his work, seattletimes.com. Ground Puck Seahawks Podcast. We do it every Monday at 11 o'clock. You can catch it up on YouTube when you're there. Please subscribe there. Also, always listen to everything, the Ground Puck Seahawks Podcast on Apple, Spotify, wherever you find your podcast. And, of course, always up at pucksports.com. Just got to mention again, we'll be off tomorrow and Wednesday. We'll be back Thursday with Garofolo and Dugar to preview the Seahawks game that night. Back Friday, we may do something different with the Friday show. I'm not quite sure how we're gonna do that yet. Either we're gonna do it live or we may have it recorded, but do it that Thursday night in response to the game. But we'll see. But we'll have stuff for you coming up there on Friday. Quickly, also, a Puck to Picker Pigskin Pick'em. We are winding down the season. 2 weeks left to make your pick. So if you are part of the Puck to Picker Pigskin Pick'em, all expenses paid trip to Las Vegas, courtesy of TroyWins.com, Circa Hotel, dinner at Barry's, first round of the March Madness tournament. Get your picks in. Remember, their games on Christmas. Great, 2 games on Christmas. So don't forget to get your picks in. And then, of course, obviously the Thursday night game and all the games. Right now, Jeff Johnson's our leader, doing it by total points, 1,370 points. Greg Macdonald is right behind him with 1,360 points. Greg, I've already taken into account taking off the points from your week 1, so don't worry about it. Kevin Cullens in 3rd place with 1,330 points. Dwayne Mathis in 4th place, 1,310 points. And Thomas Hohennessy with 1,280 points there in 5th place. So it's coming down to the wire. Jeff Johnson, Greg McDonald, Kevin Cullen, really the 3 vying for that all-expense trip paid to Las Vegas, courtesy of TroyWins.com. You want any gambling advice, go to TroyWins.com, and he will give you the latest advice. We'll get to Troy's picks and our Dogs of the Week coming up on Friday. When those guys jump back on. All right. Hey, What the Puck, brought to you by Restoration One, your restoration company that lets you avoid the stress of water, fire, mold damage with their property restoration services. Locally owned and operated. Make them your first call when damages affect your residential or commercial property. 206-817-8917. Visit them online at restoration1.com, the North Seattle franchise. We mentioned this a little bit earlier with Jim, and I'll just repeat it again. Washington State's going to make probably one of their most important hires, if not the most important hire, honestly, in their football program. And you know what? I'll backtrack. I think it's the most important hire that they have ever had to make. With the uncertainty of college football, with money, with the future of the sport, with the future of the school, how willing will they be to make an investment into their football program? It's imperative that the president and the Board of Regents gets this right. Because Ann McCoy, the AD, can give you all the names, but the Board of Regents is the one, and the president's the one that's got to sign off on it. So they've got to nail this, because if you don't nail it, it's Paul Wolfair again. And they can't afford that. Can't afford that in the landscape of college football right now when you're going into a new conference in 2026. With that being said, oh my God, I did it. With that being said, they, for me, have got to hire someone with experience. Maybe at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. And maybe Jamarcus Shepard or Kirby Moore would be great fits and could one day be great coaches. But I don't know. With no experience, with no staff, learning as they go, I'm not sure Washington State at this moment can afford that. Nor they can just afford someone who's just a retread. And I don't think that they would go down that road. To me, Vigen, the head coach there at Montana State, makes the perfect sense. All eyes and signs point towards him. Whether they can get a deal done, we shall see. But a guy that has a winning experience, a winning culture under Craig Bohl that he learned under North Dakota State and Wyoming and brought it to Montana State, to me would be the perfect fit. But we'll see if they can get that job done. I wouldn't sleep on Jim Mora, whether you like it or not. I think Jim Mora probably is a legitimate candidate for that job. He's had an up and down coaching career. College has been better than I think people realize, and there's certainly a lot of heavy lifting there at UConn that he's had to do. But maybe there's a candidate on that list that we don't know about. But I think this is the most important hire at Washington State, and they got to get it right. And I don't think that they can afford to turn it to someone who's never had any coaching experience before, because you can't let someone learn on the job here for a couple of years, and then once they do learn, have one good year, and then they're off to a bigger and better program. All right, that's Hey What the Puck, again, brought to you by Restoration One of North Seattle. Your restoration company lets you avoid the stress of water, fire, mold damage with their property restoration services. 206-817-8917. Reminder, off tomorrow and Wednesday, back on Thursday with Garofolo and Dugar. Again, the today's full show, in fact, all shows this week. So today's show, Thursday and Friday, we're going to do something different. I'm just trying something out. One, it's to save time this week because it's hectic. Two, I just want to see how it goes. I'm going to post everything up as one. So the entire Daily Puck Drop is going to go up as one. One on YouTube, and then the same thing for the podcasts. We will timestamp all of it, so you will know when they start and when the segments come in and the guests come on. But I'm not, for this week, I'm not going to separate them, just to try it out and see how that goes. Give me some feedback, puck@pucksports.com. Hit me up on Twitter @pucksports. Send me in, again, just any way you can contact me and let me know if you like that or not. Many of you have shared that feedback. All right, that's it for us on a Monday. Everybody have a wonderful and Merry Christmas. We'll talk to you guys again coming up on Thursday. As a reminder, Michael Sean Dugar and Mike Garofolo will join us on Thursday's show as we'll preview the Seahawks game, and we'll get you ready for that Thursday night game. And then also we'll be back on Friday. Until then, as always, we promise to be better.
No shoes, no dice.
Would anybody like to smoke some pot?
Yeah.
I was born to love you. I was born to lick your face. I was born to rub you. But you were born to rub me first.
What do you need my address for? We'd like to send out a mailer.
Mother of mercy, I don't speak Japanese!